this is the part that I love, the relationship side of it. You know, you have advertisers that will create an affiliate program and just put it on autopilot and think that publishers are going to come to them. It's no different than
Field of dreams, right?
Yeah.
If you build it, they will come, and they will not come. I assure you, they're busy enough. Before we jump into today's episode, I just want to remind you guys that the biggest affiliate marketing event in the world is back for 2025. It is Affiliate Summit West, and it is going down February 3rd through February 5th in Las Vegas. Guys, if you want to meet and hang out with 7,000 of the world's top advertisers, affiliates, publishers, sellers, tech providers, networks, all in one place, you have to be at Affiliate Summit West. And right now, as a listener of the Boost podcast, they are hooking you up with 15% off of your ticket. Just use the code BOOST15. That is BOOST15 when you register. Save 15% on your ticket. The link is below and in the description to grab your ticket. Now, guys, Affiliate Summit West is the home of affiliate marketing because after all, 76% of affiliates prefer Affiliate Summit West over any other event. I'll be there. I hope to see you there. Use the code BOOST15. Save 15%. Now, let's jump into today's episode. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to The Boost presented by Grommet. I am your host, Greg Rollett, and I have John Nardolilli here from FlexOffers, and we're going to have a good time talking about affiliates and publishers, state of the industry. My man, thanks for doing this today.
Yeah, absolutely. Really excited to do this, and thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to learn from you, your experience, and what you guys are doing over there. I guess let's get some context before we jump into this. Give me a little bit about your background, your story, and now what you're doing over at FlexOffers.
So I got into the affiliate marketing space in the early 2000s. In college, I would build websites for local businesses, and my brother was working for a company called Ritz Interactive, and they had affiliate programs with Commission Junction at the time. So he introduced me to some people and told me I should look into it because I enjoyed the internet online. And it was by coincidence that I fell into the space, moved to North Carolina, and there was a network in that area that hired me to start working for them as an account rep. So I started out as an account rep on the publisher side, finding all of these cool and new innovative companies that were driving traffic at scale to brands, and just really enjoyed the relationships that we were building, and so much so that eventually I became the director over there, and eventually moved on. And now I'm working on the advertiser side, helping advertisers connect with all of these publishers that I have in my network, to kind of build out those revenue streams for them that they didn't even know sometimes they had.
Yeah, and really interesting time to be in that space and help all of these folks out. I want to start focusing on the brand side. So one of the big communities that Grommet serves is all of these, thousands of independent makers, the small mom and pop who's making soap and, in their kitchen, packaging it up, selling direct to consumer. Why should they even be thinking about publishers and affiliate as a channel for them, especially in the early days?
Yeah, it's all performance based. So all these companies have all these different channels and they spend millions and millions of dollars without any potential for conversion. So they're taking on all the risk. When you work through a tracking system on a performance basis, you can do it in a way that shifts that burden over to the traffic source instead of you as the brand. And a lot of these smaller brands don't have large budgets. They can't spend $20 million for paid search.
Right.
So you can start working with all of these different clients that can do different types of services like paid search, as an example. Some brands will do their paid search through publishers because they don't have the marketing budget to sustain it themselves. So a publisher can do it, be paid on a performance basis, get commissions every time a sale occurs instead of paying Google directly $20 million and hoping that you're going to get $40 million out of it.
Right. Yeah, and it's also letting people play in their lane and what they're the best in the world at, right? Especially if I'm a small brand, again, I'm making soap in the garages with that analogy. I might not know anything about search, and I might go down this rabbit hole of spending time and money and resources when I could go to a marketplace, when I could go to a FlexOffers, when I could go to a publisher and just say, hey, you're really good at this. why don't you do that? And I'll pay you a commission on that. But it's getting brands to think differently.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You have to kind of reframe how people look at things. And the term that I like to use is hybrid sometimes, because you'll have brands that will work with agencies that are charging them a monthly fee. And then on top of it, they're being paid off of the sales that are being generated. So you can flip that, do it on a performance basis, have the data to back it up through the affiliate tracking system. And now you've created a system where they have to optimize. If they're not optimizing, then guess what? They're not going to get paid at the end of the day. So you can do a lot of things with hybrid where you're paying them a smaller amount upfront, and then they're being forced to do things on the back end to scale. On-site and cart abandonment, as an example. A lot of companies will get free on-site or cart abandonment tools when they start working with commerce platforms or whatever. Well, it's great, but if you don't have someone continually optimizing that, it's not going to work well. So you have companies that will do it on a performance basis, and the whole reason that they want to do it is they want to drive sales to you. If they're not driving those sales, they're not getting paid at the end of the day. So now you've created a workforce for you that you don't have to pay a salary to or pay a fee to, that's going to generate revenue for you in a new way.
Yeah, they're incentivized to actually do a good job for you, as opposed to just getting your retainer, whether they do good work or not. So love that. There's kind of three key areas that we're going to talk about when it comes to brands and affiliate programs. The first is competition, knowing your competition, understanding your competition. What are their programs look like? Are you competitive? Like, let's really break down competition and why is it so important to understand what else is happening in the market.
You have publishers that are out there and they are looking at different niches. When they look at that niche, they're trying to see, okay, who can I make the most money from? And it doesn't always necessarily mean the highest commission rate. It means the highest earnings per click, because every click that they send to you is a cost to them. So they look at it as, okay, well, here's all of these competitors. Who's paying the highest rates? Let's test, see who's going to convert best. The ones that pay the higher rates are typically the ones that are getting more publishers testing with them.
Right.
And then once you get it to a point where you see whether it's going to work or not, then you can fill in and figure out who the best option is to promote. And a lot of times brands are like, well, this is what we're going to pay because this is what we can pay, or this is what we think is a good amount to pay someone. And they don't necessarily go and look to see what their competitors are offering publishers that may have been in the space for 10 plus years and have already gone through all of those things to figure out where the right commission rate is to work with partners at scale.
Yeah, I think this is something that's like overlooked by a lot of brands, because they're just like, oh, I don't know, let's just 10%, right? Or 5%. Like they just arbitrarily make up a number, and you got to think from multiple angles of just like, all right, well, if there's 3 glasses of water, right, and one is a 20%, one's a 30%, and one's a 40%, and they're basically all the same glasses of water, who is the publisher going to be incentivized to promote? And so it's not usually necessarily the fault of like the software you're using or the affiliate program. It's just you're not competitive. You're not giving your product an opportunity to be seen. And again, it doesn't mean you have to offer 40%, but just you have to know what's out there and how do you make yourself stand out. So the second part of it is, all right, let's see what our competitors are doing, but we got to build our brand. We got to make our brand something that's worthy of publishers' attention. So talk to me a little bit about that side.
Yeah, so this is the part that I love, the relationship side of it. You have advertisers that will create an affiliate program and just put it on autopilot and think that publishers are going to come to them. It's no different than
building dreams, right? Yeah. If you build it, they will come, and they will not come. I assure you, they're busy enough.
Yeah. So building those relationships with each one of them is important. I always like to look at it as there's 3 different buckets. You have publishers that have been approved to your program, publishers that are click active, and then publishers that are revenue active. And you want to have conversations with those different groups differently. So those ones that have applied and are approved to your program, you need to figure out why did you apply to my program? What can we do to work together and figure out how the best relationship can be for that?
Yeah.
And then you have those that are driving clicks, but there's no conversions. Well, why? What's causing that publisher to promote you, but not generate any revenue for you. And have a discussion with them, understand, well, what are you doing? And maybe offer ways to increase conversions, coupon codes. A lot of people think that because they offer a coupon code, it actually waters down everything for the brand. Well, in reality, it increases conversion rates. And at the end of the day, you're trying to do volume most of the time. So if you can make 10 sales and make a smaller margin, or one sale at a higher margin, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So it's a give and take. And sometimes there's not that give and take that goes on in our industry. Sometimes advertisers don't see publishers as partners, and they need to look at them as partners, and vice versa. Sometimes publishers don't want to interact with advertisers because of fear that they're going to know too much about how they're promoting and then do it themselves.
Right. This is really critical, I think, because you got to find those. It's all incentive based, right? So it's an incentive for the publisher to promote, based on how well your CPAs are, your conversion rates, all of that. There's incentive for the shopper because you got to get them to purchase,
Yep.
right? Because it's not just about traffic; it's also about the conversion side. So it's aligning those. And something that I talked about this yesterday on stage is that brands will usually do everything that they can to screw something up, right? Which is crazy because I love brands and I work with them all day, but they will. Maybe the publisher will have a great article about an angle for the product and why the product works, but then on the product page, it doesn't even mention that angle. Well, that's why you're not getting the conversion. Maybe they used a picture of a female using the product, but on the product page, it's all males using the product. And so there's this misalignment. And I think what you just said is key, is that communication of just the publisher being like, hey, we're going with this angle. Let's make sure that the landing page we're sending to, or the product page that we're sending to, or wherever, let's align these things, because you're going to make more sales. We're going to make more commission. We're probably going to promote that product again and again and again, right?
Yeah, and smart companies do that now with SEO and paid search, right?
Right.
They have a paid search team that's creating pages that are optimized for conversion, whereas their SEO-based pages are set based to drive traffic from the search engines to their site. So there's different ways of thinking, and most brands don't ever think about that with the affiliate channel and offering to create different types of pages, co-branded pages as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Get rid of that anxiety of a user that is loyal to a site coming to your site and now seeing that there's some connection between that site that they came from and your site. That simple little trick there can ease the anxiety of the user across to the site and cause them to create a conversion. And what's it take from a graphics standpoint to add a logo on a page for a publisher? Doesn't take much.
Right. But it increases trust, which is going to increase conversion. You got to think these are people on the internet discovering a product. They have to get their credit card out. They have to trust you that the transaction is going to go through, that I'm not going to get scammed. And so all these little things that you can do to increase trust are so important in this equation.
And I feel like the Grommet is a great example of that, right? You have people that are upvoting these products. So when someone goes there, inherently there's a trust factor already. So being able to drive people to that site, knowing that someone has already been there and done that, and now you see the product, it's of interest, it gives you more of an incentive to click through and purchase.
Yeah, love that. So we talked about competition, we talked about brand building, trust building. I'll kind of bucket those together. The third piece is actually just relationship building. Let's go 101, but you are proof of this. I met you in person yesterday for the first time. You're over at the Grommet booth, and you have a crowd around you of you've done an incredible job of building great relationships with people over time. And it still is the best thing you could do is be able to send that text message off, make that phone call, see an email, see someone at a trade show. That is going to increase the speed and the velocity at which you can get deals done and make things happen in this industry.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for that is, I mentioned this to you before, it takes a village, right? When you're working with partners, you have to be okay with talking with them about something that isn't going to actually generate you any revenue. I always call it the Google model, right? If you have someone that you're talking to and you realize that they're not someone that's going to be able to generate revenue for you today, and you just walk away, that's a lost relationship. But if you sit there and you talk to them and you really understand what they're doing, you can potentially use your knowledge to figure out how to help them, and maybe introduce them to someone else. Maybe it's a competitor of yours. But if you do that over time, that trust builds. And once you build that trust, it's a lifelong relationship that you now have. And, eventually there's going to be an opportunity. Everything happens for a reason. So at some point in the future, that's going to come back to you, whether it's them directly or maybe they have a conversation and they mimic what you've done. And they're like, hey, go talk to John.
Yeah.
He's the person to talk to for something like this. So I feel like it's karma, right? You put good karma out there, you're going to eventually get it back. You put bad karma out there, it's gonna shoot you in the foot eventually.
Yeah, and this industry, the affiliate industry, while there's a lot of us in it, it's still very small. And people are changing, companies are changing programs, and so having those relationships, like, hey, me and you might not be able to do something today, but hey, I just got a new position, or I just started a new agency, or I just started and like those connections that you've created over time, again, it snowballs, and it doesn't take much to be a good person to send that follow up. You said you were going to follow up, to make that connection, to just be a good person and say hello and have a drink together, have a meal together. It goes such a long way because this industry is very small.
Yeah, I think people get too tied up into the revenue side of things and they forget that they're having conversations with humans,
real people. Yeah,
and that's I think the internet has helped with that, unfortunately, because there's less of this in-person communication, but you can still do it. LinkedIn is a great example. You see people's birthdays that you're connected to.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, happy birthday. You never know. Maybe it's an opportunity. They're like, oh, well, he said happy birthday to me last year. Now I have an opportunity. I'm going to send this opportunity to him.
Yeah. Small things.
Yep.
Small things. I love that. What, someone's putting together an affiliate program right now. Obviously, we just did this at Grumman. We spent a lot of time thinking about what you just said, the competition. What's the brand? What are the networks and the people and the connections that we have as we put together our program? But what advice would you have to someone who's putting together an affiliate program right now that's looking to build out a long-term, very profitable, moving at quick pace affiliate program today?
My favorite term in the industry, test. Find the people out there that you trust to give you advice that's in the industry already, and then test. Too many brands will hear other people say, hey, this type of publisher isn't good, so you shouldn't work with them. And what it does is it creates a funnel where everyone is trying to do the same thing, and it doesn't work that way. Influencers. Everybody wants influencers.
Everyone. Yeah.
But guess what? Influencers are first touch. They're the ones that are introducing your product. When you try to force them into a performance-based model, it's not easy for them to earn because they're an introducer. And our industry is based off of last click attribution, and most channels are. So how do you value that influencer when you're not really crediting them in a way that's going to work in a positive manner? Hybrid, as an example, pay them something up front, but tell them, hey, we want to compensate you on the back end as well. Any of that traffic that gets through to us, we want to work with you. And then technologies, like I've been working with a company that actually helps influencers be the last touch now. So there are things out there that are helping to change that, but you have to understand how to test everything. A lot of times people have paid search channels and they're like, we already do that. We don't want to work with paid search publishers. Well, there's a whole group of people out there that are very, very experienced that you've now turned off and, test. You never know. Maybe they can work with your paid search team, find ways to fill gaps that you might have.
Or that you're blind to. Yeah,
exactly. I used to do a lot with the site and cart abandonment companies, and we would do A/B testing with brands, and they would find out, okay, well, this company that I'm paying money to is not optimizing for me as much as this one that I'm paying on a performance basis. So now they've learned, okay, if I pay them on a performance basis, I'm going to get much more out of it. I'm going to generate more revenue than if I did it with the other client.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the difficult part of our world, right? You built that relationship with a company, and now you have to have that tough conversation with them to say, hey, you have great technology, you're doing a great job, but for us, it's not the right fit. And a lot of people don't want to have those discussions and do that, so they don't want to test. This is the way we've done it all the time, so we're going to keep doing it this way, and there's no change. And in the internet business,
that's such a limiting mindset. That's not who you want to be, especially today, because everything is changing constantly. And, what was working even 6 months ago, 12 months ago, doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow.
Loyalty, the loyalty space and extensions. Yeah. Years ago, not only were advertisers not wanting to work with extensions and loyalty sites, but networks were not approving these types of technologies into their systems. And they were doing it because there was negative information out there. And instead of doing the work to determine which ones were good and which ones weren't, they just shut it all down.
Right.
And now you have companies that can't live without loyalty and extension traffic.
It's wild. Love it. John, if somebody wants to learn more about what you're up to, FlexOffers, see everything that you're up to, what's the best place to send them to?
FlexOffers.com would be great. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Would love to understand what you're doing and just connect. Have fun. Enjoy life.
Love that. We'll have John's LinkedIn linked below in the description. Make sure you guys check out FlexOffers.com. John, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. And thanks for watching this episode of The Boost presented by Grommet. We'll see you in the next one.